Chapter. Let me see if I can just find that right quick. Yeah, in Exodus 19, I'll start reading the fourth verse. It says, "And ye have what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all the people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak to the children of Israel." And Moses came and called for the children of the people, or the elders of the people rather, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, "All that the Lord has spoken we will do." And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So right there, the people have said, we're going to do it. We've submitted to this authority that God has set forth, that he has brought us to this place, and he set Moses up as the president, if you will, or the headship. And we're going to submit to all of these things, and we're going to do everything that you say. And then, here, while we're hearing the word, we'll just read on. He goes on, he establishes these things here. And then in the 20th chapter, in the 18th verse, it says, "And the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise and the trumpets and the mountains and the smoke. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come and proved you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not." And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near unto the thick darkness where he was. And then the Lord spoke to Moses. And so we see there that there's an individual responsibility there, see, because he says that they removed and stood afar off. They removed and stood themselves afar off there because they were afraid of God. So they sent Moses in there to speak for them and to come and to speak to them. Yeah, that's not where I was looking for, but that's establishing that established leadership right there. We'll get into the further on into the, I guess it's 33, 32. Chapter 32 is where they had sinned against him, and he says, "I will blot out of," he said, "against me and him will I blot out of the book of life." That's where he's talking about the individual responsibility. It says here that therefore he's to go and lead the people into the place again where I have spoken thee, and behold, the angel of the Lord will go before thee, and nevertheless the day which I visit them, I will visit their sins upon them. So he's holding, after they had transgressed against the covenant that they had committed to, then he's holding the entire group responsible or accountable for what's happened, but he's also holding the individual responsible for his own actions involving in what the group has done. So we can't escape our individual responsibility as with our group responsibility. They're tied together. If we don't operate properly individually, then we're not going to operate properly as a society. That's the point. We've lost sight of that, and we see that in our society today. We have all this so-called individualism. We want to focus on the individual completely. The individual has their rights. The individual should be able to identify this and identify that, and it's not about anything other than the individual's personal makeup or ideology or what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with being unique and being individual. We're all individuals. However, as a society, we are not individuals. We are a collective body, and we must operate in harmony in that collective body. And the point of all of that is to bring us back to the place of good government, because the true authority that lies in our government is not in the body that is in that government. It is in the authority of the people as a whole. It is the people's responsibility and it is the people's duty to operate in harmony one with each other, so that our society operates in a lawful, safe manner. The reason we have lawless and we have murders and we have these things going on is because the individual is demanding his or her rights above the rights or duties of the congregation or the society as a whole. It doesn't matter if it's a church body, it doesn't matter if it's a workforce, it doesn't matter if it's a government in the United States. If we do not collectively submit to the good of the whole and move in harmony because we have chosen to, then we have the conflict of law and we force the body that we have placed in the authority of law enforcement to move in and act accordingly to bring order back. Without that order, we have chaos, we have mutiny, we have individualism running rampant, and we have no kind of unified movement in any one direction. It's sporadic chaos, confusion. And that's not God. That's not our country. That's not good in any civilization or society. You must have harmony and we must have a unified force moving together to be able to accomplish anything that is worthwhile. So as we see these things developing, we see that Mr. Locke, in some of his writings, he made a point dealing with what I call it sounds like the order of law. Okay, this is how law should operate. He said the law of nature stands as the eternal rule to all men, legislators as well as others. The rule that they make for men's actions must be conformable to the law of nature. So what he's saying here is the order of our laws, when we make a law and when we legislate a law, that law has to be based upon God's law and walk in harmony with that, or it has no basis to be a law. That's the point. So we get back to God's supreme authority over all of the people through his laws, and we have the Ten Commandments. You remember Moses brought down the Ten Commandments and he laid them out in the stone before the people. And those Ten Commandments are a framework or an outline of God's law of peace and harmony in a society if we're moving forward in the direction that we should go. And so every law that is based upon bringing order in humanity and in society has to be in agreement with those fundamental laws that have been placed forth, such as thou shalt not kill. Okay, I use this one all the time because it's the easiest for people to see. If the basis law of God and society and the humanity is thou shalt not kill, we're not going to take another person's life. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that we protect life and liberty of the and property of people. Then every single law that is ever written in any situation for the society that has agreed to man shall not commit murder has to be in agreement with that basic statement, thou shalt not commit murder. So that means babies, that means any aspect. The only legal explanation for taking another life is self-defense, self-preservation, self-security. So if there's life in jeopardy, then you have to take life to preserve that life. Then any law based in that aspect is a coercive law that is proper for society. And it falls into the natural order of things. So if we write a law that says it's okay to take a life, then it's contrary to that, and therefore, according to Mr. Blackstone and Locke, it's not a law at all. It has no basis of authority to be enforced. It doesn't matter if some dude in a black robe or some dude driving a Maserati or some dude carrying a paper sign says it's okay, it's not okay. And we as a society, we know that inherently inside what is right and what is wrong. Because it is because of the defiance of those laws that we have all the psychological disorders that we have to deal with in humanity. Because of that, we have people who have gone to war and come back, and they have all kinds of issues they got to deal with because they're all in this. It's not natural. So now we have to contain and we have to deal with the elements that have taken place. We have all of these individuals that have been involved in heinous acts. Then we have to deal with the fallout from all of that. That's just the order of things. That's why laws are not evil to good. The laws are evil to evil. You see, the good men automatically operate within these laws or these restrictions because it's the natural operation for order in a society or even in our individual lives and our sanity. So we must operate within those things, and we must realize that we operate in those supreme laws, and that the vast majority, if you will, or the vast authority of the laws or the government, if you will, over men is in the people, not in the individual. The whole people are governed by God, but the individual people are the ones who have the authority, and it is the individual's responsibility that if the government has gone contrary to the natural laws of God, that to bring restoration and bring it back to the place where it is walking in the confinements of those laws. It is our duty, if you will, to the public order of things to make sure that our people that are in those positions of authority that we willfully submit under are doing the things that the natural laws of God have set in order to be done. If the government becomes tyrannical and it begins to violate those basic orders of law, then it is the people's responsibility to stand up against that, because the authority of government is not a God-given alienable right. It is the God-given alienable rights of the people to govern themselves. It is not the king's God-given alienable right to be the king. And this was the conflict that got Locke hiding out and what was his name? Good grief, why can't Sidney? He got Sidney's head cut off because he stood up and told the king that he did not have a God-given alienable right to be king. He was only king because the people willfully submitted to his authority, and if the people were to revolt, he could do nothing to stop it, no matter how big his army was. We've seen this over and over and over in history. We have these civil wars that seem to go on forever in these foreign lands over here because the people themselves are not submitted to those who have claimed rule over them. They have violated the laws that the people feel needs to be adhered to, and so we have civil wars over and over going on and all over this world because of this basic ideology. And it is the divine law that God has set in place. So it will always be, as long as there is a conflict, there will be an uprising, because if the who is in charge or has been placed with the responsibility of authority does not follow the God-given characteristics of law and order that have been set in motion, then you're going to have an uproar from the people, and eventually you have a revolution. We've seen it all through history. We saw it in the birthing of this nation. This very nation is birthed from what the things that we're talking about. And we're seeing this very thing right now. The biggest fear that the founding fathers had in creating our Constitution and breaking loose from England was the fact that they did not have the confidence that our society would stand up and take the responsibility of the moral duty and obligation to walk in the righteousness of God. I'll just call it what it is, and stand up for purity and order. And until Thomas Paine